So, first of all, welcome to all of you, and especially those of you who are here for the first time. So, my first question is, can you hear? It's okay? Our meditation practice this evening is what we call calm abiding, or the more technical term, shamatha. This particular practice is important because we tend to have very busy minds. Busyness driven by many things, sometimes positive excitement, and other times kind of dark depression, and everything in between. And the busyness becomes a very large problem because most of the time we believe in it. The irritations and the many rambling thoughts in our minds at times lead us to a place of despair. So naturally we would like to do something about it. And the practice of calm abiding, along with what we call refuge and bodhicitta, are very strong antidotes to this busyness. So we begin first reciting the refuge and bodhicitta prayer, which are meant to be antidotes to our fixations. So one of the points we raised this morning, I'd like to raise this evening again, is that we cannot alone, each of us, by ourselves, no matter how brilliant we are, we cannot subdue this busyness, this darkness, this exhaustion, and all the other ways that we might characterize it. It is not within our power to subdue it by ourselves. So many centuries ago, a different approach was developed, whereby if we can get some help in this process, we might be able to work with it. So the first part of that puzzle is to recognize that we cannot do it alone, because it is the self itself, it is the me who wants to overcome it. But I am the one who maintains it, feeds it. And the angry dog bites me anyway. So in order to circumvent that little difficulty that looks on the surface to be impossible to resolve, for who other than myself could possibly be of help? And so it's helpful to consider two things. One is that if we could find someone who could be helpful, that would be marvelous and might provide us with the mental space, if you will, to allow the mind to settle peacefully, calmly, as in calm abiding, and even to enjoy the presence of that self. So we make a request as the beginning. The request is to someone who might be a spiritual friend, if you will, someone who is on the path with us, perhaps someone who is the progenitor or the one who gave us the path or showed us the path. So one method is to go to them and ask for help, especially if it's someone who has worked on these things for a long time. Then they will understand why it is you need help. And they may possibly be capable of showing you the way out. So that's one method in essence. A second method for working with this inexorable, seemingly permanent and undefeatable sense of self is to explore a proposition. And the proposition is that the source of clarity, sanity, and happiness is not actually what we do for ourselves, but what we do for others. And one of the most extraordinary things that we can do for others, that we rarely give any credibility to at all, is to fill our own minds with the wish for the benefit, happiness, and joy of others, and imagine that that benefit overflows and has an effect on all beings. So here we have two very important things. One is relying upon another to find our way out of the woods of self-centeredness, and to recognize for ourselves and others that the cause of happiness is loving kindness, compassion, joy, a sense of equanimity in relationship to all others. And when we make that discovery, then we can benefit others just by virtue of filling our own minds, our own hearts, with that joy and with that loving kindness and compassion and equanimity. In other words, we fill our own minds with that, but we understand that due to the truth of interconnectedness, all of those wonderful attributes naturally flow out and affect others. So in this way then, we begin our session this evening with the recitation of refuge and bodhicitta. Our refuge here is refuge in the Buddha, the teachings of the Buddha, so we imagine that we are indeed taking refuge in the Buddha, whether it is the historical figure or some more recent individual, our teachers in the Dharma, our examples and so on, kind of take the place of the Buddha. And secondly, the bodhicitta prayer, which we just discussed as being the root of awakening in the Mahayana tradition. To fill our minds and hearts with kindness and compassion, joy and equanimity. In the context of the bodhicitta prayer and aspiration, we do this in order to bring great benefit to all sentient beings. So as we recite this prayer, it's important to not just say the words, but to imagine that as you make the wishes, the aspirations, that they spontaneously occur effortlessly. Following that recitation, then, we'll have a few words for the instructions for the practice.
Until the summit of enlightenment is reached, I and all beings go for refuge to the sources of true refuge. I will now practice the absorption of calm abiding in order to release all beings from their particular suffering and establish them in lasting peace and happiness. Until the summit of enlightenment is reached, I and all beings go for refuge to the sources of true refuge. I will now practice the absorption of calm abiding in order to release all beings from their particular suffering and establish them in lasting peace and happiness. Until the summit of enlightenment is reached, I and all beings go for refuge to the sources of true refuge. I will now practice the absorption of calm abiding in order to release all beings from their particular suffering and establish them in lasting peace and happiness.
Having engaged in the recitation of refuge and bodhicitta, which should be done, which is helpful to do before every meditation session, We now begin in the practice of calm abiding. Calm abiding is often considered a method or series of methods by which we allow the mind to rest naturally, peacefully, in a calm, stable, still state, undisturbed by whatever conflicts we might be engaged in or be aware of, by whatever excitement we might be engaged in or aware of. By whatever activities we are possessed by. Calm abiding is meant to be an antidote to deliver, by virtue of the training in calm abiding, to deliver a stillness, a presence that may not otherwise be possible to experience. So in essence, you can use almost any object for your calm abiding. Some inanimate object like a stick or a stone, a statue, some design in the floor in front of you. A sense of well-being or a sense of even despair. Calm abiding can be the antidote to all the obstacles of launching oneself well into the path of overcoming all the causes of suffering. Usually we start with something simple like our breath. Of course, if one suffers from breathing problems, asthma or something else, then it is difficult. But practicing calm abiding, we will not be able to completely avoid our difficulties anyway. So whether the object we use for our breath is easy or difficult doesn't matter so much. Sometimes we think that the object of calm abiding is to train our minds to be very still. But that is not always the case and not necessarily the main reason for practicing calm abiding. Maybe we're plagued by certain repeating thoughts. I should say apparently repeating thoughts. Perhaps we're plagued by jealousy, an extreme sense of pride, anger, and so on. Calm abiding could be an antidote. But even more important than the calm abiding as an antidote is the calm abiding of just developing the skill to be able to see. To be able to see the despair, to be able to see the fear, the pride, the jealousy, the greed, and so on. Just to be able to see it without even any intention of applying an antidote. Just to be able to see it in the place of stillness, is an enormous thing. So while you sit quietly, you could, for example, place your awareness upon the movement of your breath. Following the breath like you follow the movement of air in and out of your body. Just following the breath. In the moment of practicing calm abiding, there needs not be a reason, a purpose. In fact, a reason and a purpose may be an obstacle. Better just do it. And along the way, if you feel a little tense physically, a little bit challenged by the discomfort of sitting, or the discomfort of mental processes and so on, you can just take a short break right on your cushion. By moving your body a little bit back and forth, relaxing with intention, letting go of the meditation for a few moments or minutes, and then when you're ready, just settling back into that shamatha, that calm abiding again. As often as you need to do that, you may find it helpful.
by this virtue may I quickly realize Mahamudra and establish all beings without exception in this state.
So we're going to have a break, but other announcements again? Having death by announcement.
Or death by announcement.
That's to avoid the announcement of death. We're having death by announcement.
Your death will not be announced to you. It will just be experienced. So first, thank you for being here. And because some of you were not here this morning, we want to be welcoming back Dora and Bill from their time away. And everybody pretty much, unless you're brand new, knows about October 21st, big celebration, Saturday, 12 to 6, many activities. If you have questions, come talk to any of us at the break or look online. And there was kind of an interesting discussion the other day with some of the long-term practitioners about kind of getting used to the space, and could they put flowers up here? Could they, can they go up there and offer flowers? Yes, just like Cat Monroe. When we were there, you can offer flowers. So think about that. It's a nice offering to the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha to do that. And the children's program is going to have a new year when we get space downstairs for that. Mary Woods and I had a good meeting with a focus group of people who've helped teach before, and parents and people who've come and told stories and got a lot of feedback and ideas. And as a result, we're looking for a couple of different roles for people to play, and if you're interested, see me. So first is an assistant to Mary Woods to help with the 5 to 11-year-olds. And by the way, we have quite a number of young ones interested in the program this year. And my grandson, who has been spoken about, may show up and do light switches. Perhaps that was a story. He'd like to do that. But then we also are looking, we got 2 people this morning, but we are looking for another person or 2 for a committee to think about how to provide childcare for the 4 and under. And this would be just twice a month, 2nd and 4th Sundays. So if you're interested at all, or if you just even want to think about it, talk to me or Mary Woods, okay? I don't know any other announcement. Bill has a class coming up. Bill, do you have a class coming up?
I was reminded that I have a class coming up.
Gee,
This is how much of a vacation we had. I've heard that it's in October. Okay. Yeah, it's on the practice of Chenrezig, so yes.
Yeah, Bill, check the website.
I'll be right back.
He'll check now, and you can talk to him at break. And Julie Herlocker is going to be leading a group on, I can never remember the number. There's more to death than dying, or more to dying than death. What's that? More to dying than death. But you could say it the other way too, and that would be cool. More to death than dying. Okay, anyway, look on the website. That's coming up too. All right, break time, I think.